So, welcome everybody. I am so glad that you are here. Seriously, I am. If you are thinking, okay, maybe I shouldn't be here because I'm behind or things don't work out or whatever it is, just know that that's exactly who this is made for. Tonight is definitely not about perfection. This is about really small, supportive shifts that really fit into your real life. So, and when these small habits, these shifts are consistent, they create some real change. And we're going to spend about 30 to 40 minutes together. And then if you have any questions, we'll stay on for some time afterwards. But there's no judgment, just real support here. And again, if you're just tuning in, welcome. Come into the chat. I would love to know two things. Where are you tuning in from tonight? I'm tuning in from Rosemount, Minnesota. And it's actually a kind of a nice spring day. We have a big wind, which is making my walk was a little bit shorter than I planned. But let me know where you're tuning in from and then what inspired you to show up. I do like to guide the conversation and just to understand what has guided you to show up for the class. And so I'll be coming in and just hearing what you're saying. Yes, welcome, Karen. Yeah, Karen just retired. Finding ways to tweak my retirement. Absolutely, Karen. There's a lot of people that I work with that are just retired, and it's important on how to figure out what is that healthy schedule for you, right? Sometimes when we fail to plan something, we plan to fail, right? So we do need to think about retirement in a way about what's going to set you up for success as well. And again, if you would like to download the guide, you can come here. I did do the direct download in the chat as well if you want to do that. So welcome. I am so happy that you are here. And if we have not met yet, hello, I am Lori Campa. So I have spent over 10 years coaching women over 40, and I really focus on how they can live their healthiest life, how to feel more energized, how to feel good in their bodies, how to have kind thoughts, reduce hormone related symptoms. I lead with my heart, I'm practical, and I'm the kind of coach who will celebrate your wins and help problem solve without making you feel bad about being human. And it's about taking these small steps, learning from them. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But I am certified 3 times, so nationally board certified in nutrition, and then also with an integrative health. And I also my certification in yoga and Reiki. But I'm just really passionate about helping women get control of their life and whatever you've always imagined to how to put that into place. So here, I'm going to tell you what you're going to learn today. So here's where we're headed. I'm going to explain why it's not you, right? That you are not the problem at all, but that when we turn around 40, 50, even into our 60s, 70s, 80s, there are some changes for women. And I'm going to talk you then through after we go about why is it harder after we hit 40, then we're going to talk about these 4 small shifts. So these are going to be shifts that create habits that stick, right? Nobody wants to just do something short term and then feel bad that you did not keep going. So we're going to keep everything real realistic. We're not going to talk about waking up at 4:30 in the morning, drinking celery juice and running 10 miles, becoming a new person in that way. This is about the real life version, the one that works even on your most stressful day when you're busy, when your hormones are doing whatever you want, and when there is a pantry that contains chocolate, right? No shame. I have dark chocolate every single day. So just let go of any distractions. You signed up for a reason. So if you have a notebook, just grab a notebook, or if you have the guide printed out, or if you have it on another screen, again, you can use the guide later. So again, just type into the chat what inspired you to show up for today. So I would love to hear more from you. And again, here is, if you don't want to do the guide yet, you can just do a little screenshot here. And we're going to officially start all of the information. So many women feel like, okay, what I used to do in my 20s and 30s don't work anymore. And it's not because you are lazy, it's because because our hormonal shifts, they affect our energy, right? They affect our mood. They affect our sleep. They affect our digestion. They affect, well, of course, your menstrual cycle, right? And when you're mentally tired, making healthy choices feels really hard because your brain is like, I cannot make one more decision today. So if you're thinking, yeah, why can't I do the same things that I used to? I want you to know you're not failing, right? Right now, you might be in the point of your life that you're adapting. And we have all ages on this call. So we're all going to feel a little like, okay, I'm in a different season than somebody else. But overall, when we get to be in that second half of life, success comes from these smaller habits, right? That are more flexible and more supportive. We can't have it so rigid. That habits still work when we're tired and when we are low motivation. So just thinking about that this is biology and life stage and not a failure. So before I go into these four shifts, I just want to name something that a lot of women don't struggle because they don't care. They don't struggle because they're not trying hard enough. They struggle because they've been taught to change in ways that don't work long term. These shifts are about working with your body, they're about working with your life and your energy, your seasons, not against them. So, this approach is really inspired by that idea that I have seen proven over and over again that small changes done consistently create these really big results. So not through force and not through like just going through it and not and hating every bit of it, but it's through support. If you look at my life where I was 12, 15 years ago, I'm a very different person from where I was, but I took it little bit by little bit, day by day. So let's start with these four shifts. And this first one is a big one. With all of my health coaching clients, we talk about mindset, about how we look at failures, how we look at celebrating our wins, all the different ways that we talk to ourselves. That is key for a long-term habit to be, or for a habit to become a lifelong habit. So if you are in the workbook, we're on page 4 and 5 now, talking about growth workshop or growth mindset. And again, if you don't have it, no worries. The direct download is in the chat, but no worries either way. So the small shift number one is all about growth mindset. And what that means, it's believing that change is possible and not because you're perfect. And I'm sorry to say, not one of us are perfect. We are all imperfect beings. And it's not because you're not disciplined enough, but it's because we're willing to practice, right? So that growth mindset makes us move from this self-judgment to self-support that, we can get better at anything when we continually practice something. And so just start to think about in your mind, what could be one thing that I can add into my day or take away that is small, that's doable. And I want you to hear too, this is important, that many people believe that, I just have this low motivation. I'm always so tired. And so people think that motivation should come first, but in reality, it's action. So action creates motivation, not the other way around. And so that's why, like with my health coaching clients, right away we start the very first session, even with when we do like a consult, we get an action on the table because that feels good and that creates that momentum for more motivation. So small steps repeated with compassion, with support, create real change over time. So this is one of the most freeing ideas, I think, is because if when we're struggling to approve, right? Sometimes what happens is that it's about the system of how we're going about it. So in health coaching, we do a lot of experimenting to see what's the best system that works for you. And a system is just basically a collection of habits that make up your day. So knowing that when there is an issue, to look at it as information that, I'm not the problem, but maybe my system is, right? And that systems, we can change those. We can figure out what is going on. So instead of asking, like, what's wrong with me, which a lot of people do, it can be like, ah, let's look at this. Let's get curious. What needs to change in my daily routine? Right? What needs to happen for me to be successful? And maybe it's backing it down to be even smaller than that. Instead of saying, I'm going to go for a 30-minute walk every morning, maybe you start with putting on your tennis shoes. Maybe it's just walking out the door. Where do you need to start? So, this growth mindset, I feel like for every age group, is a superpower. I remember when my daughter was in her first college level math class in high school. And they taught this and they said, yeah, you don't know this yet, right? That this is really a superpower instead of, I don't get it. I don't get it yet, because habits don't stick everybody messes up. I mess up all the time. Habits stick when people mess up and they recover, right? We recover quickly. So with a mindset that's on the growth side instead of fixed, a slip is just feedback. It's not failure. It's information. It's that data. It's your brain saying, oh, so that didn't work. Let's adjust. So really the secret to winning is knowing how to lose and to go, okay, I can bounce back from that. We can get back on track a lot faster. So some of my past clients have told me that especially like on the very first session, they're like, well, I slip up and then it's all done. So whatever they're trying to do, it just goes right back to the way they were. And then they feel like a failure. They feel bad about themselves. And they're like, well, I blew it. I might as well just eat all the snacks all over and just start all over next week. But instead, thinking about a slip as again, that data, maybe a detour instead of a dead end, instead of what's wrong with me, it's about, okay, so what happened? What do I actually need in that moment, right? Being curious. So many of our habits are on autopilot. And so when we are taking this time to be intentional with our health, we're actually for the first time maybe going, I am not even noticing what I'm doing. What I actually need in this moment is something completely else besides 10 cookies, right? So maybe what you need is sleep. Maybe what you need is a plan. Maybe you need to have some healthy options prepped in the fridge. Maybe you need support. Maybe you needed a snack at 3 so you didn't end up starving at 7, right? It's figuring out when I slip, what do I usually tell myself? And then how to use it as information to backtrack that, to go the opposite. Like, okay, that's information that I need to work on how I talk to myself and need to have a growth mindset to go further. So I want to give you some reset phrases, something that you can actually say to yourself when life happens. So with my coaching clients, right, each person is individual. No two people are quite the same. And so we will work through together, what does that look like for you to get back on track for your sentence? So maybe for you, it's, yeah, well, I'm learning. Okay, maybe you messed up and you just had a chocolate cupcake, maybe 2, 3. And you can go, but my next choice is going to be my best choice. Or maybe feeling like, guilt is something that I put on myself. I don't need that, but I can do adjustments. Maybe if you said you're going to exercise every day and you didn't, it's like, I haven't exercised. I haven't exercised yet, right? That feels different. Think about the energy of when you say things. So, right, guilt, that's heavy. It drains our energy and it does not help with meal prep. It does not help us go for a walk. It does not help us to drink more water. When we have guilt, when we feel bad about something, it really just makes us feel terrible while being human. So once we stop trying to be perfect, because again, none of us are, and we're all in imperfect relationships, and start taking these small actions, something really shifts. We see things from a different way. So we begin to see ourselves differently. So shift one was that growth mindset. And now we're going to talk about shift two. So many clients, when we first start, they want to make all the changes right away. And sometimes, every now and then, we will go big. But I need to kind of listen to their personality, see what's worked in the past. But for most people, we're going to start with one habit at a time and then just keep going, just thinking about, 1% better every day or 10% better every month, right? That really makes a big difference when you look at your life a year from now. So most people don't fail because they quit. They fail because they start too big, right? So when we think about a small action and then we keep adding on, we're having that positive momentum, right? That small, steady actions are what actually creates change. When we make this change smaller, it becomes sustainable, right? So I just want to make sure you hear that again. When we make the change smaller, it changes then for a lifetime because we're connecting to it emotionally, right? When we go too big right away, it's too much of a change that it's hard to keep it sustainable. So one supportive meal counts, right? One walk still counts. One extra glass of water counts, right? These small shifts done consistently matter more than big efforts done occasionally. Again, those small shifts, when we can be consistent with them, that makes a bigger difference in your life than going, okay, I'm going to do something big twice a year. A full glass of water when you wake up doesn't feel life changing today, right? But over a year, that extra glass of water, that's going to make a difference. So progress really happens one step at a time. So thinking about too that when we find action, it relieves this anxiety of, oh my gosh, I have 50 pounds to lose, or oh my gosh, I need to get my A1C number down. Oh my gosh, I need to work on my cholesterol. And so taking a small step relieves that anxiety because you're doing something. And so a lot of times we stop and we get stuck when we avoid something we care about because we don't know where to start. We feel like it has to be this big thing. So stress then grows when we stay stuck. So even when we take a tiny step, the nervous system, which is the foundation of health that I talk to with all my clients, the nervous system settles. So it doesn't take much. Even 5 minutes is often enough to feel like you're back on the path. So it might be, right, taking some deep breaths for just 5 minutes to stretch, to move, doing a plank every day, something that just helps you go, yeah, I'm doing something that is counting, is a vote towards that person that I want to be with. So think about, that one small action you could start to take starting tonight or tomorrow that would help your future self. So thinking about at the end of today's class, I would like everyone to be able to put in a small action, and it might be something that you've already been doing and you would like to bring it back again. It might be, right, just starting brand new and going, yeah, I'm going to take a minute of deep breathing every day, or I'm going to meditate when I first wake up. So just start to think about this as we go through the other shifts, because we're going to keep talking about this one thing that you can do today. So shift number 3 is building habits for real life. So that first one is all about mindset, right? Growth mindset. Then we talked about not going so big, starting small and then working your way up and really working on that patting on the back. Like, yes, I'm doing a great job with this. So shift number 3 is not thinking about like, oh, everybody else is doing this. Well, your life is different than everybody else's. We all have a unique health. We all have a unique schedule. So we really need to think about what works for your real life. So, right, motivation goes up and down. So it is not reliable. It changes throughout the day. And that's why these habits need to be small enough that you'll do them even when motivation is low. A habit that only works on the good days isn't a habit. That would be called a wish, right? So tiny changes are doable. So how many hours of the day are you in control with? So when I think about what's under my control, for me, I own my own business. So I have more hours that are under my control. Some of you may work 40 hours. Some of you may have volunteer jobs. Some of you might be watching grandkids. So thinking about outside of those duties, how many hours are in your control? And it can be fun to make these small actions. So what can you stick with, even on your worst days or on your low energy days, that smallish version of a habit? So instead of chasing outcomes, right? Instead of saying, I want to lose 50 pounds, that's an outcome, that's a result. Instead, we want to focus on identity. So every small action you take is a vote for the kind of woman that you're becoming, right? Every time we have a cupcake, or every time we have maybe some chocolate chia seed pudding, right? Those digest in our bodies differently. And so having that chocolate chia seed pudding is a vote for, oh, yes, in 5 years, this is who I want to be. I want to be somebody who is making healthy decisions. And that's powerful. When we think about the kind of woman you're becoming, thinking about, I'm almost 55. So thinking about, okay, where do I want to be when I'm 60, 65, 70, 75? It's powerful because it means that change doesn't require that perfection. It requires that consistency and that kindness. And again, it's all about progress over perfection. So who you're becoming really matters. And this is where we talk with my coaching clients, this big vision. Who do you want to be in 5 years? Who do you want to be in 10 years? It gives that direction. And for some people, we look at 6 months. For some people, we look at a year. It depends on what their goals are and thinking about who they are becoming. But the real question is again, what small action can you start that can help your future self? Thinking about, okay, future Karen, when she's 10 years from now, she can be like, oh, I'm so happy that I made these changes. I look back at myself and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I made those changes of kicking my Diet Coke addiction, getting rid of my Pop Tarts, getting rid of all these things, starting yoga when I can only do half of a class. Now I teach yoga, right? We have to start somewhere. So this workshop and what I do as a health coach is all about closing that gap between today and who you are 6 months from now, a year from now, whoever you want to become. So once we know, I see, this is who I want to become. The next question is, how do we make it easier in your real life, right? Do you have kids? What are the responsibilities? These tiny changes are doable. Again, making this nice and fun for you. So we're going to take a moment just to shift how we see the season of life that you're in, that you are not broken. We are not broken. We are in powerful transitions in our life. And after 40, and all the way up to the end of our life, our body is asking for deeper care, not more criticism. Okay, we've done that probably enough. So if we first approach this chapter that you're in with curiosity, what would that feel like? With compassion, right? You have wisdom in you. You all have resilience in you, and you have that chance to truly own your well being. And I honor this gift of growing older. We just had 19 family members over for a holiday on Sunday, and they were making fun of all of us who are old. And I said, I'm so happy that I'm here, that what a privilege it is, right? To be growing older. My dad never had the chance to become as old as I am. So every year brings me more wisdom, and I see this with my clients, brings me more strengths and more truth. And I'm grateful to age with grace, to age with courage, with purpose. That mindset shifts like this don't usually happen alone, right? That's why I work with women one on one. So thinking about what is your belief about the season that you're in right now, and maybe this belief needs to be rewritten. So thinking about, oh yeah, I'm thinking to myself, this is awful to grow old. You're right. How can you think about that in a different way? That, the most empowering version of you is still unfolding, right? Again, that every line that we have on our face, every shift, every year is proof of a life lived and lessons learned. And we are allowed to, for me, I really grieved the old person who drank wine and ate popcorn while watching TV almost every night, right? I can grieve that person, but I was still celebrating that person that I was becoming. And that's exactly what happens in health coaching. Your body is changing. And this big change doesn't come from doing everything differently. It's just a few things differently with consistency and compassion. So, again, thinking about what's that one small shift that you might want to make. So drop in the chat what you're thinking right now. What is that one small thing that you're choosing for this week? And you don't need to overhaul everything. So it might be mindful breathing 1 minute a day. It might be increasing your water intake by 1 glass a day. Maybe it's adding vegetables to your meals. Maybe it's strength training for 15 minutes or maybe 1 day a week. A good one for me is going to bed 15 minutes earlier. So again, you don't have to overhaul everything. So choose something that feels light, that's not forced, something that fits into your life, that brings a little bit of joy as well. Like I love having like a warm cup of lemon water in the morning, and it does bring me joy and it does help me to drink more water in the morning. So let this be the week that you begin and you go, yes, gentle, intentional, on your terms, that progress doesn't need to be loud. Sometimes it's just a one kind choice at a time. So thinking about, right, drinking enough water helps with hormone detoxing and reduces bloating. A short walk outside reduces our cortisol. It supports our balance. It supports us to balance our hormones. So there's so many little things that make a big difference. So just come into the chat and just let me know what's one thing that you're going to change. And again, this is about nourishment. It's about self-compassion. It's about these small changes and making that difference. And for some of you that might be right in that perimenopause or menopause, it can feel like a wild ride with a lot of changes and surprises. But one thing is for certain is that we all deserve to feel good in our body. We all deserve to feel nourished, to feel supported, energized, and even we can have a little fun, a little joy in the process. So maybe it's swapping out some of your sweets for some 70% dark chocolate, or maybe it's having nuts instead of your chips, right? So thinking about that one small thing, and we'll come back to this at the end as well. So we've gone through the first four shifts and now our first three, and now we're going to number four. And this is about how when we have support, that changes everything. And so here's what I have seen over and over and over again, that change is possible alone, and many people do it. But it is much easier and more sustainable with support. Support is not about weakness. It means that we are human, and it is easier when we have support. That change can be hard when it's all alone. Support also increases the follow through, and it also helps you to feel like a partner, that you don't have to figure this all out by yourself. And support works because it helps you to stay focused when life gets busy, kind of reminds you, keeps you grounded when motivation drops, and gives you encouragement, because old patterns are going to continue to pop up. Even for me, so many years later, old patterns will just pop up. And I'm like, oh boy, for the last 3 days, I was going back to my old self, right? I'm knowing that's not supportive to my body anymore. I need to focus back and remind myself. But sometimes I need somebody else to remind me of what I'm doing. So most women don't need a lot more information, but it's about having the right structure, guidance, accountability to help these small shifts actually stick, to find clarity instead of overwhelm, to have that structure without a lot of pressure, and accountability that's realistic and also kind. So, this is where health coaching fits. Health coaching takes everything we talked about today and helps you apply it to your own life. So, with your schedule, with your energy, and your season. And health coaching is collaborative. So, it's not me telling you what to do, it focuses on habits for you, your mindset, how to have sustainable change. It's not about quick fixes, it's not about willpower, but that coaching helps turn insight into action. And then that action turns into consistency. And that consistency turns into a different life. You're becoming that person that you set out to be. So if you've been nodding all along, going, yes, this is me, then the next part is for you. So before we wrap up, I just want to extend an invitation for just being here today. So if you've been dealing with things like maybe trouble feeling, sleeping, maybe stuck in your weight. You don't have to figure it all out on your own. I help women over 40 with simple, sustainable change to support your life. And this is what some possibilities to get you on the right support. So this is someone that she said, I tried every diet out there and nothing had worked. Lori helped me see that true health isn't about weight. It's about sleep, movement, stress, connection, breathing, nutrition, and so much more. Since working with her, I've lost over 100 pounds, sleep better, enjoy cooking, and actually love moving my body again. Whether you want to lose the weight, feel less anxious, or just feel better in your body, I highly recommend Lori. She's changed my perspective on health and on life, and I choose how I want to live it. Life is good. And she has kept this weight off now for years. This is, again, she had to go deep to figure out, okay, what is that mindset? What is the pattern that keeps coming up, and figuring out what was going on? So health coaching helps you lose weight. It helps you to gain more energy, get better sleep, not second guessing every food choice. It helps you to build real habits that stick when life gets busy, and helps you just to feel calm and supported instead of trying to figure it all out on your own. So it's not about information, it's about transformation. So you are invited to come in for a free coaching session. So if you can scan this here with your phone to go into the scheduling, or you can do a screenshot here. And if you're ready to feel better in your life, let's chat. And there's no pressure here. We have an actual coaching session. And at the end, I just say, how did that feel for you? That's all I say. That's my sales pitch. So there's no pressure. And I would love to talk to you, because I would love to hear, what is that small step that you are deciding to take right now? How can I help you to talk about what are the roadblocks that are going on? How can we make it more specific? How can we measure this? How can we have this be a successful place for you to be? So another client said, working with Lori has been an absolute game changer for my health and wellness journey. I've never felt more supported or confident in my ability to take care of myself. I'm so grateful to have her in my corner. And this client, one of the biggest things that I love is, I think she has referred me to 5 new clients. And so when people say, oh, you have to work with a health coach, that's the biggest compliment for me, right? That if it feels scary to take the first step, you can hear what some of my clients are saying here. And I'm going to come into the chat, and I'm just going to um, put in some links here for all of you. And I'm going to just set this up here for the free coaching. I'm going to be coming back so we can talk about some of your actions, because I see them there. And then also, if you did come in late, you can still get that downloadable guide, the workbook. I put the direct link into the chat again. Or if you're watching this on a replay, just scan this and then you can get this downloaded. And it's a nice workbook that's going to help you go through some of these small steps to go through there. So, thank you so much. And we are going to be going into our Q&A next. So I just want to say that I appreciate you taking the time to be here, and your journey, the season that you're in, doesn't have to be overwhelming, that there are real solutions and supportive guidance, and I am here to help. And we're going to be starting our Q&A. So I'm just going to be coming out here to stop the share. Hello, hello. And let's see. Oh, thank you, Isla says, I always enjoy your talks. Thank you, Isla. Angela, yes, and she is tuning in from Fridley, Minnesota, and she was, inspired to be here to want to institute some better healthy habits, right? And it's one thing to talk about it, and it's a whole nother thing to think about, where do I start? And so, Angela, I think you're still on. Let me know, what is that one small step? What does that look like for you? And I know Angela is a mom as well, and she works. So having to find that balance of that real life again. So, what would be something that maybe you have enjoyed in the past? We're getting spring in Minnesota, so maybe it is getting out for a 10-minute walk 3 times a week, but thinking about what would be doable. Yeah, and Janelle, hello, Janelle. Yeah, she's from Lakeville, Minnesota, and she is over 40, and she's like, I need all the tips. Oh, Joanna, oh, I'm so glad that you are here. Yeah, she is working on her self-talk. So I would love to hear from you, Joanne, if you're still on live. What does that look like for you? Is it something that is specific? So is it when you mess up, because it's not if, we all mess up, when we decide to have the cupcake, right? When we decide to do these things, is it about that growth mindset, or is it about starting the day being like high-fiving yourself and be like, yeah, I got this, and just starting with a different energy? I would just like to know more about what that means to you about the self-talk. And yeah, so Karen says, my intuition is telling me to drink a glass of water in the morning. Yeah, and Karen, what I love is that, especially if you have a glass of water next to you when you go to bed at night, it's really easy too that you can actually drink that glass of water before you get out of bed. So we want to make your habit as easy as possible. So for you, it would be having that water down, right by your bedside. For me, I love lemons in my water, and that helps us to detox even more. So maybe it's also having some lemons, and on cold mornings, you warm up that water and you have a nice cozy glass of a cup of lemon water. And Karen, also the next step after a glass in the morning, I would I would try to figure out, just to decide, like, can you measure how much water are you actually drinking? And a good way to start is, in an app where you can just write it down, during the day. Okay, that was 12 ounces, that was 10 ounces, because we want to have about at least half our body weight in ounces of water. So if we're about 160 pounds, that's about 80 ounces. But if you exercise a lot, if you're outside in its heat, you're going to want even more water. So it's really when you are feeling thirsty, that means we are dehydrated and that we need more water. But we detox overnight when we sleep, but most of us do not drink enough water to help flush out those toxins. So that morning glass of water, Karen, is going to help on so many different levels, and it helps crowd out cravings as well. And then another Karen is saying, she's from Lino Lakes. Yeah, she would like to work on stretching daily. So Karen, let me know, come into the chat about, what does that look like for you in timing wise? So is that going to be stretching for 3 minutes? Is it stretching for 15 minutes? Is it stretching in the morning? Is it stretching throughout the day? So just to define it more and maybe how to measure it. For example, I am doing a plank every day. So I messaged a bunch of my family and friends, so they're doing it with me. And then on my calendar, I'm highlighting every day that I do it and the length that I'm doing my planks for. So how can you track it so that you continue to remember, like, oh, yes. And one thing, the loop of a habit is also the last thing. The last part is great job. Like, oh, that felt great to stretch my body. Right. So I think that was really good. Yeah. And Joanne was just talking about really overall, this is about her mindset, self talk. I just need to be nicer to myself. I say the meanest things to myself if I mess up on food or exercise goals. I need to be more aware and kinder to myself. Yeah. Thank you so much for just being real and vulnerable right now, because I think a lot of people are probably feeling that exact same way. And the first thing is awareness is the first step. Because we're on autopilot, especially with how we talk to ourselves. And so that awareness, it's going to start to really, it's going to get even louder and louder and louder, louder. And the thing that I always think about, because I still have things come up that are not so nice to myself. We can't be perfect again in this, but how can you notice that and to go, wow, like that's not kind. That's not helping me with my goals. What that's doing is the exact opposite. It's going to keep me stuck, right? And and I know Joanne, I think I know which Joanne is on here that like she is a very kind and loving person. I think probably most people on here are. And so how can we treat ourselves with that same love and kindness and compassion that we give to other people? Why is it different for you? And so finding that compassion, finding how to be gentle and to start even smaller. So thank you again, Joanne, for doing that, for saying that. Yeah, and Karen S said, realistically, I'm watching TV or first thing in the morning. Yeah, that's great. When we watch a show, my honey knows that I get out the yoga mat and I sit on the ground and I have like these little bands that I do and I stretch. That for me, TV is also a time for me to stretch or to do something that is my cue. So sometimes you think about habit stacking, like, oh yeah, after I brush my teeth, I am going to stretch in the morning, right? Like that might be your cue. And then it might also be, and let's just see how this feels when I'm watching TV. So that was great. Oh, Joanne said your slide examples was helpful. Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to see the different ways we can talk to ourselves and to go, yeah, I didn't get to exercise today yet. And maybe the day is over and you're not going to. So then it's like, oh, I didn't get into exercise this week yet. But oh, how does it look like tomorrow for me to even get in 10 minutes of a walk? What does that look like for me to do lunges while I get gas tomorrow? Right? All of these little things really add up. So thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for staying on for the Q&A. If you have any questions, please let me know. And again, in the chat, I'm just going to put all of those helpful links if you still need them. And if you're watching the replay, always let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out, but I would love to talk with each and every one of you. Have a great night. Bye-bye, everybody.